Hey, it's Rich, the Louisiana hobby guy. So you just got your beautiful CO2. It came with this nice big roller accessory, and you're excited to get started doing tumblers or cylindrical items. But there's so much information out there that is so wrong that you just can't figure out what to do. Well, don't go anywhere because I'm going to show you how to do it in just a few short steps without changing any machine settings, without without following these long tutorials. We're going to set it up, get it rolling, and you'll be rolling tumblers in just a couple minutes. Stay right there. All right, so you've been on YouTube. You've probably watched a dozen or more setup videos, and you're watching these videos with everyone taking you into the machine settings of your controller, which gives you a warning: do not come in here. It even warns you not to go in there, and they're telling you to do it. Well, folks, you don't have to do all that. There's only a couple little settings that you have to make for these Chinese laser rollers, and we're going to do that right now. So first step is setting up the roller accessory on your laser bed. So let's go do that now, and then we'll come back in Lightburn and I'll show you how to set up your settings real easy. Okay, so now on the left side over here, I have raised my bed with the laser head over this area here. I've raised it and focused on this right here. And there's my line that I've drawn that's dead center of these two rollers, which are the ones that I'm going to be using today. So with the laser focused perfectly on this line, dead center of this line, then I can go ahead and lower the bed again and put my workpiece on. And today we're just going to use this piece of wood here as an example. And then raise the bed back up and focus onto the wood. Now I know that because I've got my line here, and I know that my roller accessory is square to the bed, that I'm exactly in the center of this piece of wood right here. So at this point, now we're not going to move the Y anymore. The Y-axis is not going to move anymore. So now we can turn off the machine. And, you know, I don't know, some companies say turn it off, some companies say don't. I turn it off because we're going to make an electrical connection. So let me get my light so that maybe I can get a little more light in here. Let me see where I can put it. Try putting it right there. And let me turn the camera just a bit, which it's hard with this tripod mount. All right, so back in there, you can see this is my Y-axis connector. Yours may be up here, it could be down there, it could be, you know, anywhere on this side somewhere. So what I'm going to do is take this one off with the machine off, and I'm going to pull it by the connector, okay? I'm not going to pull it by the wire. Make sure that you're pulling it by the connector. And then you won't be able to see in the video, but there's a little channel right here. And I'll show you a close-up on this. So if we take a look here, you can see on this side right here, there's a little channel right there that fits into the groove. Now this only fits in one way, so you don't have to worry about this. It's not going to fit any other way. You're going to bring it up here, set it in place, and turn it until you feel it drop into the hole right there. And then we're going to push it in until it's fully seated. And now it's fully seated. We're going to go ahead and screw it down, even though it doesn't need to be screwed down. We're going to screw it down anyway. And we're all set now. And we're ready to start our calibration. It's just that easy. So the initial setup, now this is, you know, this is going to take a little time. You got to find your center. Let me move the camera back over here. You've got to find your center over here. It's got to be exactly in the center. You've got to do your focus on here. Make sure your red dot pointer is exactly in the center. Lower your bed down. Move your y-axis to just your x-axis, excuse me. Move the x-axis directly to the right without moving the y, so that you know you're directly in the center here because you've already centered there. So now that we know that we're directly in the center, we can move on in Lightburn, set this up, and run the job. All right, so let's try and make this as simple as possible. We're going to go to the rotary setup right here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over and dock it right on top of there, since I have enough room on my side here. And this would be under Laser Tools, Rotary Setup, or you can click the rotary icon like that. So now that we're in the rotary setup, I have a roller type. If you have a chuck type, you choose that one. I'm going to enable the roller. It is a y-axis roller. And the steps per rotation, this is a brand new roller. I'm told that somewhere around 9,000, so that's what we're going to leave in there, 9,000. The roller diameter I've already measured. It's 24.4 millimeters. And this is a calculator now for the object that we're going to do. So this doesn't affect the actual performance of the roller, but I know that I've got a 50 millimeter piece of wood on there, which, you know, the 50 millimeters would be 150 would be the circumference. But we're just going to go and highlight this right here and copy that. And this is just a tool, just a calculator. It has nothing to do with the roller. So the only things we need to do in here is steps per rotation, roller diameter. Say OK. Oh, of course, enable roller. Say OK. So now I'm going to draw a rectangle because we're going to do a test on a piece of wood, and we're going to check our steps per rotation. I'm going to select that rectangle, and in the height up here, I'm going to paste the circumference that I just copied. And there it is right there. Now let's bring this way down like that. So now we've got our circumference. So now remember that the roller is sideways in the normally the y-axis is like that, right? But we've got the roller sideways. So with it tilted sideways, we've changed the orientation of the y-axis. So now it is rolling this way. It's going back and forth. So you understand? So this goes all the way around the cup, like that. And now we're ready to run our first test. So we know that we've got the circumference and the height, which is all the way around. And let's come to let's turn on the camera here real quick. So there's the camera. There it is in the bed of the laser. We've got the setup all done. And let's just run. And I put a little mark right there where my LED is. And that's just a reference point, just a starting point to see if we set this up properly. So, oh, another thing too, let's jump over to move. We don't want this thing to spin off the table. So let's change the speed on here, the move speed, to say 50. You think 50 is good? That should be slow enough. Okay, we'll leave the Z speed alone. And let's come back over to the laser and let's watch this dot right here and see what happens when we frame. So it's coming all the way around, and now it looks like it may be just a tiny bit off. So what we'll do is we'll run an actual burn. So let's come over to the cuts and layers. Let me come down to the library, to Baltic Birch, engrave, assign that to it. And that's going to give us a speed of 250 and 35. The only thing I might want to change on this, I think I will actually lower this. I think I'll lower this to 110. That looks good. Because all we want to do is put a light mark on the wood and make sure that it goes all the way around. We're going to check and see if we have our steps per rotation set up properly. Alright, so here's one thing I'm going to do slightly different than everybody else does. On the laser tab, I'm going to work in absolute coordinates, and let me explain why. So let me shrink this down just a little bit so I can show you. I like to control the X from here. So most people do this in user origin, okay, or current position. I don't like to do it that way because I like to control it from here, side to side. So let me show you what I mean. If I move this to here, okay, watch what happens when I frame. You see that? Okay, there's my frame job. Now watch what happens if I move it over a little bit like that and hit frame again. You see? So I can position this perfectly to do this job right exactly where I want it, and I think I want it like right there. So let's try the frame, maybe a little further. We're going to move it over one more. And you see how it moves the X? And look at that. And that's exactly where I want it. So this is completely up to you. You can either jog the laser by hand using the arrows, or move it by hand, or you can use absolute coordinates. I work almost everything in absolute coordinates. So that's what I'm going to use as absolute coordinates. Another thing too is I don't want this in film mode. So let's put this in line mode, make it just a little bit smaller like that. And now we are ready to go ahead and run it. So let's hit start and see what happens. Water pump is on, air is on, laser's on. We're good. And there we go. It did our line. So let's pause for a second, go get it, and take a look and see how it came out. Alright, so let's take a look. I'm not going to move the workpiece. Just want to give you an idea because I'm using absolute coordinates. So you can see that we are a little too far. And I would say that that's probably about 14 millimeters or so right there. And it's not going to be perfectly round because this dowel, I turned this, so it's not perfectly round. But you can see that it overlapped. And when it overlaps like this, it means our steps per rotation are too great. So we're going to have to lower our steps per rotation. And again, we're only doing this one time just to calibrate the roller. So let's go back over into the software, lower our steps per rotation, and try again. Alright, so now that we've figured out that we're about 14 millimeters off, let me drag this out of the way for a minute. And let's come over here to the rotary setup icon. And our steps per rotation we're going to change now. So I'm going to change this to, I'm going to try, let's see, we're going to try 8750. I'm going to give that a shot and see how that works. 8750 steps per rotation. And I'm going to say OK. Now we could use that test button and watch, but I can't show you that on on the video here. So alright, so now the next thing I'm going to do is, I know I don't want to redo this one, okay? I don't want to put it in the same spot. I want to move it over. So I'm just going to press Control and D to duplicate that, and with my right arrow I'm going to move it slightly over like that. Now if I come over here and select, let me select this one, I can delete it, and I know it'll be in the right spot. All I did was move this over a little bit, and that's why I like working in absolute coordinates. So let's take a look-see. Let's bring this camera out, make it a little bit bigger, and let's come over to the laser tab, and let's hit frame. And now you can see that it's moved over exactly the size to the space that I did it at. So we're going to go ahead and hit start now. And there goes the air compressor. And I'm going to hit start, and we're going to burn this one. And laser switch on. Let me check that. Yep, it's on. So I'm going to hit yes. And there we go. Second burn complete. So let's go take a look at that one. Alright, so this one, it got smaller, the overlap, but the overlap is still there. So what we have to do now is we have to reduce it even more. So let's do that. Alright, so now we figured out that we only moved it about 4 or 5 millimeters. So let's come back into the Laser Tools rotary setup. And in here, so now we went from 9,000 to 8,750. So let's just go all the way down to 8,000. And you know, this is only one time that you have to do this to calibrate your roller. So don't get discouraged at this point, because you know, this might take 6 or 7 times to get it done. So don't get discouraged. So we're going to go with 8,000 this time. And I'm going to say OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. If you're using current position, you could just use the the arrow key and arrow over just a little bit. But like I said, I like using absolute coordinates. So Control D to duplicate it. Oops, I went the wrong way. Move it off to the side. Get it real close like that. Come down here. Select that one and delete it. Now it's positioned. And if we come to, let's bring the camera back out. And this camera freezes on me because my other software takes it over. So we're going to try and reactivate it again. There we go. And if we come over here to the laser tab and hit frame, you'll see that it will now frame over from where the last one was. See how perfectly spaced those are? And that looks good like that. So now you could just use your little dot, your little black dot that you put on here, and you don't have to burn it every time. But I like to do this so that I can see where those two overlap. So let's go ahead and hit start. And yes, everything is on, so here we go. And there we go. Let's take a look at that one. Alright, so here we are, and look at that, we've made some progress. I've actually turned it just a little bit so you can see the last two, and you'll see that we are no longer overlapping, coming down from 8,750 to 8,000. Now we have a gap. So now we know that our correct steps for rotation are going to be somewhere between 8,750 and 8,000. So I would say that that's probably going to be about, I don't know, maybe 8,400. Somewhere around there. So let's give it another shot and see what happens. All right, so we're back in Lightburn, and we're going for another go. Now we're going to come back here to the rotary setup. If you notice, there's a little green light on it now, just to point that out. But we're going to come back into the roller setup, and we're going to change this now. I think I'm going to go 8,400. Yeah, I'm thinking that 8,400 might be a good number. So we're going to do 8,400 and say okay. And let's go ahead and find the camera. Let's bring that, connect it and bring it out. And I moved this by hand, so I'm pretty sure I don't have to move it on the bed this time. Let's take a quick look-see. Yeah, it's in a good spot. That's because I moved it by hand. Alright, so everything's on. Let's hit start. Water pump is on, air assist is on, laser switch is on. We're ready to go. Let's run this real quick. And there we go. Now let's go take a look at it and let's see what we get. Okay, we're making progress. Let's get in on that. And you can see here that we're very close now. I'm going to make one more adjustment. So now you see we've had to do 4 adjustments so far. So let's go make the adjustment and try one more time. Alright, so I am hoping that 8250 is going to do the trick. I didn't expect it to take this long. And look folks, when you're watching these other videos online, they already know what their numbers are. This is the first time I'm setting this up. This is probably what you're going to have to go through. You know, like I said in the beginning, the last time I did this with a CO2, it took me 6 tests. So what are we up to now? I guess 5 or 6. And we're getting close. But you know, when you're watching these other videos, they already know what their numbers are, and they're not really guessing when they say, oh, let's take a guess and go with this number. Oh, look how spot on that is. No, they're not, it doesn't work that way. So we're going to go 8250 this time. Let's let's do 8250 and let's see what we get. All right, so here we go. And unfortunately my camera froze up there. So let's go. It does that from time to time. Let's go see what we got. Alright folks, I'm going to call that a wrap. And there we are. Those 2 lines are now touching. I know it's kind of hard to see. Let me pull this out, see if we can get a better view of this. Maybe come over here in the light. Let's see. There we go. So you can see that those lines are spot on at 8250. So that is the number that we're going to use. We're going to use 8250. All right, so there we have it. Now it's a millimeter off, and I'm not going to worry about a millimeter just to save time, you know, for this video. But you know, you would go ahead and do, you know, 8248 and run it again. But I'm satisfied with it where it is. So now, using this as our guide, let's get back to this guy over here. Now we've calibrated. We're done with the rotary setup. We don't need to go into the machine settings. We don't need to change any settings at all on this. So all we've done here is this right here, steps per rotation. That will remain the same forever. And so will the roller diameter. In fact, you don't ever have to come back into this window again, ever. However, there is a nice little calculator here so that you can get your circumference. So when you measure the diameter of your item, which we know this is 50 millimeter piece of wood, we put 50 millimeters in here, and this tells, and it automatically calculates the 157.080 that we can copy and then come over here and put it up in this box here where it says height. And that's all we're concerned with right now, is the height. And that's how you set up. So from now on, you've got a brand new job to do. Let's walk through the steps real quick. What you would do, click the Enable Rotary button over here. Step number 1. Step number 2, come over to Move. Make sure you have a low speed here so that the tumbler or the bottle or whatever it is that you're engraving doesn't fly off the rollers. So set your speed to 50 millimeters. Enable rotary, set speed. Choose your origin point. Like I said, most people are going to use current position or user origin, one of those. I use absolute coordinates. That's me. Now you come over here, you've got your 157. That's like the wrapper that goes around a bottle. So we know that's what it is. Now you've got your roller in there positioned and ready to go. And all you need to do now is set the size of the graphic that you want. So let's go with a 3-inch graphic. So what is that, like 75 millimeters or so? Something like that. Let's just unlock this. Let's put it on 75. Press enter. Lock it again. Now that's the work area that we want to use. This is the label that's going to wrap around that dowel that we've got in there. And keep in mind, that dowel is turned. So it used to be a block of wood. So it's not, and it's crooked. So that's why you saw those lines were off just a little bit. But don't worry about that because we're not concerned with that. Let's go grab a graphic. Let's pick any graphic. Let's come into the Air Force as an example. Let's just take a simple graphic, bring that in. Now, this graphic, we have to turn sideways as well to match the label. So all I'm going to do is press the period button, and actually it should have been the comma button to make it go the other way. Or you could just do the rotate up in here. I could have just put in -90 degrees here and press enter. But with it selected, if you press the period button, it goes one way. The comma button goes the other way. Okay? So now let's take this guy and put it on a toolpath, because we're only using that as the area that we have to work within. And let's just shrink this down a little bit, bring it over here, go like that, and bullseye it. Now we know it's directly in the center. Now if I click off of this, because they're both selected right now, and I just select the image right here, I'm going to hold my control key. I'm going to grab a corner so that I scale it proportionately to the work area and bring it down to the size that I want. And that's the size I want right there. Okay? So, there we go. We're done. We just have to hit the start button at this point. So that's just how simple it is. Enable rotary, set your speed over here, and click the start button. Let me bring the camera back out again. Let's see. Let's come up here to camera. And well, what we're going to do now is we're just going to check the position on that. So let's do a frame. And there it is. That's the area that we're going to be engraving. Right there. So, let's hit start. And there it goes. And there it stops. Let's go see what we got. Okay, the moment of truth. Let's go ahead and grab it. Oh, and that came out just perfect. You see that? That is absolutely perfect. Exactly what we wanted. And I guess I should have put this in fill mode so that you can see it better. But I'm guessing that you can see it. And it's done perfectly. Roller accessory complete. How easy was that? Okay folks, so the final step in all of this is I'm done with my roller and I want to go back to using it as a laser. And what most people are not going to tell you is this final step, and it's very important. So the final step, you leave your laser on and you come over here to the back or wherever it is you have it plugged in. Go ahead, unscrew it, pull it out without, you pull in the wire, again, make sure you pull it by the metal, bring it down, take your other one, plug it back in, and you do this while the laser is on. And now, all we have to do is come over to the controller and press the reset button. It's very important that you take this final step, and you'll see now that your laser has gone back to the original configuration. Now, like I said, it's very important that you take this final step, because if you don't do this, you're going to mess up your configuration. So that's it. That's a wrap. And finally, the question that you'll see most: how do I do this on two sides? And that's really very, very simple. And I know you've found videos out there that have these long algebraic formulas and all kinds of weird stuff that I just, oh my God, it drives me crazy. So it drove me so crazy I had to do this. So let's scale this down so that we can fit it on two sides. So let's say that that's going to be our graphic that we want on both sides of the cup. Okay? We're going to bring our width down for our toolpath like that. Right? Now, here's what you do. We're going to select this one, and we see that we have a height of 157.08, correct? Let's bring up a calculator, and let's go 157.08, and we're going to, let's see what we're going to do. Divide that by 4. There it is right there. So that's the magic formula. The height divided by 4, 39.27. So we're going to take and draw out a rectangle that's 39.27 high. Select it, come to the height, type in 39.27 and press enter. And I did that wrong, so we're just going to backspace that out, press enter. No, I did it right. Okay. So now with this box selected, and it should be about the same width here. It doesn't really matter what it is. Okay. We're going to drag across both of these boxes right here, these two boxes. And what we're going to do is up here at the top, we're going to align it to the top. Okay. Align on center like that. And now we have our box. Okay. So let's bring it back up here. Now, you'll see that it's aligned to the top. We're going to click on this one, just the one that's in the middle. We're going to press Control and D for duplicate. Then we're going to hold down Shift and select the outside box so that the outside box and this inside box is selected. And we're going to come back to the top, and this time we're going to align it to the bottom. And guess what, folks? That's just how complicated it is. We've just found the two centers. This is one center. This is the other center. All we have to do is take our graphic, plop it right over here, and you see that little box in the middle. If it doesn't snap to it, hold down Control, and with your arrow key, move it so that it's in the exact right position. At this point, press Control and the letter D to duplicate it. With the arrow key, move this one down there, and there you go, folks. It's done. The distance from here to here added to here is the same as here to here. You have perfect centers on both sides. It's just that easy. All right, almost done. I promise you, we're almost done. So what do we do next? So the next thing that we do, with your laser still on, and you've reset it, you've put your Y-axis back in and reset the controller, we're going to turn off Enable Rotary. And now you'll see that little green light disappeared from up here. So it's important that you do that before you switch off the power. So now the power is off, the rotary is off. We're back to using it as a regular machine, but don't go anywhere yet, because I want to show you something important. Let me bring up the picture of the final engraving and show you some important features here. Okay, so looking here, you're going to see that right here in the corners are burnt. Do you see that? And there's a reason for that. I mean, the engraving came out perfect. It's a little wiggly in a couple of little spots, but that's not because of the machine. It is because of the graphic. You see this right here? And there's a couple little spots on here. See these wiggles? It's not a good trace. So that's what that problem is. But let me show you what the corner burning is. So if we come back over to cuts and layers here, and we look at the engraving, well, we left the speed alone. So normally what I would have done was to engrave this was I would have raised the speed to like 250 or so, and I would have raised the power to about 15. And now our settings are correct. Minimum power is at 10. Maximum power is at 15. So what does that mean? So the maximum power is going to be all the way through the line, and the minimum power is going to be where it makes the turn, the corners. So you saw that those corners were burned. Well, the way that you get rid of the corner burning is by having a minimum power. So I might have put the minimum power at, on this particular one, I probably would have done 15 and 11, something like that. And the laser's going to slow down when it hits the corner. So you have to lower your power on the corners, and that's what the minimum power is for. So we've got our maximum power of 15 that burns the line. Then we've got our minimum power that burns the corner. Now what you might want to do to get this setting right, so let's say you're doing a tumbler and you don't want to mess it up in any way, shape, or form. Get yourself some wood dowels from Home Depot. If you have a lathe, you can make your own. But get yourself some wood dowels and experiment with the max and min power, with the graphic that you're going to use. And, I mean, you can dial in that corner so that it's absolutely perfect. So, with that said, I think we've covered everything. All right, folks. So there you have it. Using a roller accessory on a CO2 shouldn't be so complicated. And I do apologize for all of the bad videos that there are out there. And trust me, I've gone through them. And I've watched them and I've just shook my head back and forth saying, my goodness, and then you look at the comments and people saying, oh my God, you helped me so much. And I'm just baffled because none of them are right. I haven't found a single one. Point me to one, that's accurate. None of them are accurate. None of them take you step by step through it from beginning to end. So, this video was designed to debunk all of the other videos that you're going to find out here on YouTube. I don't mean to be rude to the other creators. So this is a very, very simple process. The only part that takes a little bit of time, it'll take you 15 or 20 minutes to set up the roller because you have to do your test burn. Now, I used a wooden dowel. You don't have to use a wooden dowel. You can actually take an end product that you're going to use and put some blue tape, painter's tape around it. And this way, you're not going to damage the product. But you're going to know for sure that it's accurate by following the procedure that I showed you. And if you're using a Chinese laser with this particular roller that I've got here, and it is it's an old style roller, but it's still very common. If you're using that particular roller, start at 8250. It shouldn't take you more than a couple of minutes to set it up. And then once it's set up, I mean, it's just so simple to use. And there's really no reason to go through all of these other steps that everybody gives you, especially on the double-sided tumblers. That I really get a kick out of some of those videos because, people are actually, I saw one guy that actually created an algebraic formula to do this. And he made it so complicated when it's not. It's just so easy. Take your height divided by 4. That's the number. make two boxes, align one to the top, one to the bottom. You have your two centers. It's just that simple. So I hope this video helped you out, and I hope you watched it to the end. You know, because the like some of the messages I put up throughout the video, if you didn't watch it through to the end, you're gonna miss some important tips. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video today. I enjoyed making it, and I really enjoyed debunking all of the other videos out there that are giving out such bad information. So I hope you'll share it. You know, share it on Facebook and wherever you go, Twitter, Twitch, whatever it might be, so that other people can understand that this is a very, very simple process that does not have to be overthought, and you don't have to make changes to your controller. And I stress that point because you even get a pop-up warning that says, are you sure you want to go into these settings? These are vendor settings. Don't do it. Don't do it. Use the software as it's meant to be used. It's very simple, easy to use. Hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed bringing it to you. I hope it helps you out. As always, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.